Hey guys, what's up? Nick here once again, and today we're going to be ranking the worst to best characters slash vehicles in Twisted Metal Black. So let's get right into it. Before we get into the actual ranking, I just want to get a couple things out on the table. The first thing is, I know some people in the past have given me crap for calling them characters instead of just the vehicles of the game. But honestly, in Twisted Metal, I feel like the character goes hand in hand with the vehicle. The vehicle itself is its own character, if that makes sense. So this is not about the person behind the car. This is about the vehicle, the special weapon, the feel of driving them, all of the above. So just keep that in mind for my ranking criteria. And the next thing I want to get out of the way is, yes, I've technically already done this video about a year ago with the tier list of Twisted Metal Black. But I figured, I just didn't want to redo the tier list again. I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit. But I wanted to come back to this game because there are some genuine differences in the way I feel about Twisted Metal Black after this past year of playing it for so much content and just going back and playing with every character, that I feel my old tier lists are a little bit outdated. So, with that being said, if you like this video, make sure to leave like your support as always, and if you want to see more remake tier list videos like this, let me know in the comment section below of which game in the Twisted Metal series you would like me to revisit. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Coming in dead last for me as the least enjoyable character to play as in Twisted Metal Black, this might be a huge shocker to a lot of people because I know most people immediately would jump to Brimstone in Twisted Metal Black. I know he's kind of the one most people really dislike, but for me, it's actually Junkyard Dog. I know there are Junkyard Dog lovers out there, I understand that, and I don't think you're wrong for liking him. He has just like the jack of all trades of things I don't necessarily enjoy when it comes to Twisted Metal characters. For one, he's a sluggish and slow vehicle, so his turning isn't that great, his speed and acceleration aren't that great, and overall it's just kind of a slog to drive as him. Now usually, especially in most other characters in this game that have a more sluggish attribute when it comes to their driving, they usually make up for it with a really decent special weapon. And even though this was the very first time we've seen this character in the TM series, he sadly did not come out with a bang. His special weapon is pretty mediocre. It's not terrible, and it does a decent amount of damage, but it's pretty mid, in my opinion. And you might see this as a little bit of a theme in my ranking videos. Special weapons are like the bread and butter of the vehicle. If the special weapon sucks, I'm usually going to rank it a lot lower than other vehicles. But yeah, so Junkyard Dog special weapon essentially is a gas can napalm that you launch, and then you have to hit the button again to drop it from the sky and do bullseye damage on vehicles. Again, it does decent amount of damage, but the fact that it kind of imitates a weapon that's already in the game that any other vehicle can pick up really lowers its value for me. And again, the amount of damage is decent, but there's definitely stronger specials in the game, which leads to me to basically never pick this vehicle unless I absolutely have to. So that's why he is last placed for me. Next up in the ranking is Warthog. And I know this, again, might be kind of a controversial pick because I know there are people who really like Warthog in this game. And I have to admit, I think he can be really decent if you play him enough. But again, for me, I just don't necessarily like playing as him. I think the design is really good. I love the look of this vehicle. I think it's one of the best looking Warthog designs ever in the entire series. But I just can't get past his sluggish handling. His speed isn't actually that bad for being a tank. He's actually a lot quicker than I would expect. But he's still more on the sluggish side compared to most characters in the game. And his special weapon, as strong as it is, it's probably one of the most difficult specials to use in the game, and you pretty much have to freeze people to get them to stay in place long enough to even use your special adequately. Obviously, there's times when you can ram someone into a wall, get them stuck upside down or whatever, and get a massive amount of damage done with your special weapon. But for the most part, it's very difficult, and yes, it's probably a skill issue on my part, I admit that. But for me, he just isn't that fun to play as. It just becomes more of a hassle and a nuisance than anything, and he's an unlockable character, which kind of makes it more of a slap in the face to me, because I feel like unlockable characters should be more, I don't know, not broken, but just on the better side of things, and for me, he was just kind of a letdown. So that's why he is second place for me at the worst. Coming in at number 3, we have Axel. And once again, might be kind of controversial, but I feel this one most people probably agree with me on. Axel, love the design. I don't hate his backstory. I think it's kind of unique, and I like the fact that his feet are always dangling down and getting destroyed by the asphalt throughout the game, which makes it super brutal, and it kind of makes sense to his character. And yeah, I love the look of him, but I feel like his special weapon just does not cut it. Yes, he has two different special weapons technically. He has his main shockwave that we've come to know and love, but he also has this new version of his special, which is awesome, which his wheels will come in together and protect him, and he can run over vehicles doing actually more damage than with his shockwave. Now, it's cool being able to do those two different specials. I do think that's great, but his armor still is not that great, which makes sense because his body's open to the elements, just like Mr. Grimm. And on top of that, it just feels like most of the time his special does absolutely no damage, even if you are able to adequately hit his second version of the special. I know on the Twist Metal Black Online, he's much better, but this ranking is only based on the single player experience, not the online version. So yeah, Axel for me, he just comes in third place. He's not absolutely terrible and a dread to play as, but it's one of those things where the only real benefit of playing as him is just so you don't have to go against his annoying AI that just nonstop spams the absolute shit out of you with his shockwave special. And not only that, he is a pretty fast and fluid character to drive around, which is nice, coming from his TM2 counterpart, which is very sluggish. So at least they did that right, and that's why he's definitely not last on my list. Coming in at number 4, we have Brimstone. Now, Brimstone, to me, understandably, probably in most people's lists, is at the bottom of the list for the characters. 100% because his design, his character, everything about him is amazing. A lot of fun, he's unique, he's a new character to the series, but for some reason, they absolutely botched his special weapon. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the design of it. It's a dude literally being strapped or ripped through the chest onto a launching mechanism on the front of your vehicle, and then you launch him onto a vehicle, and he yells, "Repent," and he explodes, doing no damage, basically. It's a real bummer. All they had to do was up the damage that his special could do, and I think he would have been an amazing asset to the game. Probably one of my favorite characters in the game by far. But again, the special weapon being the bread and butter of these vehicles, it pretty much feels like a fire missile. It does almost the exact same amount of damage to basically making it useless. And not only that, but his special is kind of hard to even hit people with. Half the time, the dude will fly off into the abyss and explode and not hit anybody, and it's just really annoying. He doesn't have much range either, which is also a bummer. It's just, yeah, the whole situation with his special weapon is such a bummer that I think it really just taints this guy in everyone's mind. And I get that. I totally get that. I used to be on the same exact spot. But the reason he's not last on my list, he's a little bit farther up, is because playing as him more often now, I really, really love the way the car feels. It's very fast, super tight handling. It's easy to get away from danger. He kind of feels like Spectre in a way, in a lot of ways. It's such a shame that his special is so trash. But yeah, if his special was better, he easily would be maybe even S tier for me. So yeah, that's why right now he's at number 4. Coming in at number 5, we have Darkseid. Darkseid for me in Twist Metal Black, once again, pretty hard to put on this list. Mainly because there's times when I really like playing as Darkseid. I like the vehicle design. I love the character, backstory, all that stuff. But yeah, their special weapon is a lot to be desired. It doesn't do nearly as much damage as I feel it should, and it's very difficult to actually hit anybody on certain levels in this game. Talking to you, Snowy Roads. But with that being said, of course, she has an amazing amount of armor, and she's actually not too sluggish for what she could have been, so I have to give them props for that. But yeah, really the main downside for me for Darkseid is the fact that the special weapon just doesn't do that much damage unless you get the T-bone bonus or whatever it's called. I think it's the T-slide bonus, something like that. Doll Mask, if you watch this video, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Darkseid, they're not terrible by any means. That's why they're, more on the mid area of this list. But they just could have been a lot better, and that's why I feel number 5 is a good placement for them. And coming in at number 6 is going to be Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket, another unlockable character in the game, the first unlockable character in the game. I love the design of this car. I like that they made it more of a slim, like sports car looking taxi. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it's something about it. I just love the design. It's probably my favorite looking yellow jacket in the series. I also really like the idea of the special weapon. The fact that it's all these spikes that come out around the vehicle so you can hit anybody from any direction. And there's two ways to use it. You can hit the fire button and all the spikes will shoot out from the car in all directions. They have a little bit of homing capability, but they don't really do much damage, so it's kind of useless. But if you're able to ram into somebody with the spikes and use turbo, you get what's called a turbo bonus, and it does a lot more damage. Still though, not enough damage in my opinion to make it make sense, I suppose. It's still a cool, unique idea, but I feel like the lack of armor for his vehicle really makes it tough to want to go and ram into people. With Darkseid, for instance, it makes sense why you want to ram people with a giant semi, but with a little taxi vehicle, especially a sports car version of it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that you'd want to track down somebody and get that close to them and to ram them like head on or T-bone them, whatever you want, just to do a little bit extra damage with your special weapon. So it just, to me, kind of taints the experience. It makes me feel like, man, this could have been so much better. But all around, he's a lot of fun to play as. Again, he's a sports car, so he's really fast, really great handling, tight handling. And I love the story behind it. I think the character is very dark and unique, but I love it. I absolutely love it. So that's why I feel Yellow Jacket being at number 6 makes a lot of sense for this list. And coming in at number 7 is Shadow. This was also tough. I wanted to put her higher on the list, to be honest with you, because I absolutely love playing as Shadow. I think she's a very, very good car, but I also feel she's kind of the perfect example of like the mid character or the medium character, or just a character that anybody brand new to the series can pick up and play and have a decent time. Because nothing about her is overpowered, or like anything about her is exceptional. It's just everything is good. But on the other hand, nothing is bad either. Nothing is terrible. And that's why I really like Shadow in Twist Metal Black. And yes, I know about her secret special, where if you triple tap triangle, she'll come out of the top of the car and she'll basically copy Outlaw's special in this game, where you don't have to aim. She'll aim for you and shoot a Gatling gun at the vehicles around you. And it does do more damage if you can get every bullet to hit versus her regular Shadow special weapon. And with her regular Shadow special weapon, it shoots out from underneath the car, it stays on the ground, it can go up hills and everything, but it only is a straight shot. It's a pretty wide blast area though, so you don't have to worry too much about missing unless you're really bad at aim, and you just have to detonate it in time to get the max amount of damage. But it's just not that strong. It's nowhere near Twist Metal 2's Shadow, we're not going to go there, but it's still pretty decent, and it's a lot of fun to use. Not only that, she has decent armor, about medium I should say, and her handling and her speed, again, are like medium. Nothing exceptional, but nothing bad. So yeah, that's why I feel having Shadow at number 7 on this list is more than adequate. And now we're coming down to the nitty gritty, because these next few characters, up until the very best character in the game, for me, were extremely difficult to put it in a correct order, because it just... they're all good. They are all good, okay? No matter what order these guys are in, I promise you, I love every single one of these, and I will play any one of these any day, no problem. But coming in at number 8, I'm going to have to put Manslaughter. I know there's a lot of Manslaughter love out there. Drew, I'm looking at you. But for me, Manslaughter, the biggest issue with him is his sluggishness. Super slow speed, super terrible handling. He's just slow in every sense of the word. Yes, he has 2 giant attributes. He has his armor, which is absolutely insane. He probably is one of the strongest characters in the game next to Minion. And then his special weapon is absolutely gross with how much damage it can do. And he also has 2 versions of the special. It's essentially a ton of rocks in the back of his vehicle that he can either drop behind him or he can chuck in front of him at any vehicle. If you are able to chuck the rocks in front of you and hit every single one, it can do a devastating amount of damage. That's why a lot of people love Manslaughter, and why he's pretty decent even for like speedrunning purposes. But for me, even though his special is amazing and I love his amount of armor, I just cannot get past his sluggish handling and his slow top speed. So for me, I feel number 8 is a fair placement. Coming in at number 9, we have Outlaw. I know this one might be very controversial. I think Outlaw is probably a lot of people's favorites car in this game. But just like Shadow, I feel Outlaw fits that perfect, like, if you're brand new to the game, he's a perfect car to start with because everything about him is very good. Nothing amazing, but nothing terrible either, of course. He has decent handling, decent speed, decent armor, if not pretty good armor, and a decent special weapon. I know a lot of people rant and rave about his special weapon, but truth be told, I've never been a fan of it. I think it's okay, but it's just the fact that it's a dude shooting a Gatling gun is so boring to me. At least with Shadow's secret special weapon, it's her floating on a ejector seat that's above her car, and it looks more just silly and insane, I guess. So that gives me a pass. But in this situation, it's just a dude in a Gatling gun, so nothing too crazy. And not only that, but I feel like the actual accuracy of the special weapon is not that great unless somebody's just not moving at all. But if you're driving around people and you're just letting it shoot willy-nilly trying to hit anybody around you, it's going to miss most of the shots. Now, yes, there is a second part to a special weapon, of course. If you rapid tap the special button, you can get little rockets to come out as well as the bullets doing extra damage. But this only works if someone is right in front of you. If they're to the side, behind you, it won't work. So it's useful and it is cool to get extra damage. It feels very, fulfilling and all that. But for me, the fact that he's just kind of a military vehicle, there's nothing too crazy about him. It's just kind of bleh. That's what makes him not that great of a character for me to play as. But again, I obviously see his strengths. I think he's a very, very good character in terms of gameplay, and he's not bad at all. There's nothing bad about him. So yeah, that's why I feel this placement for Outlaw makes the most sense. And coming in at number 10, we have Mr. Grimm. Mr. Grimm in Twisted Metal Black is probably my favorite version of Grimm in any of the games. I absolutely love him in this one. He's super fast. His handling is probably the best in the game. It makes sense, right? Because he's also the weakest car in the game in terms of his armor. But his special weapon, man, it is so satisfying to get hits with that scythe. It looks badass, it feels badass, and the amount of damage is just insane. But that's honestly how it should be. That's how a glass cannon should work. Risk and reward. So the risk is that you have no armor, basically. You can die super fast. If you guys have played TM Black, you know what I'm talking about with the fast gameplay and the amount of damage that other people can do to you. Basically, one manslaughter special, getting a direct hit on Grimm, it's game over. So you have a lot of risk, but that reward of using his special weapon and just demolishing people with 2 to 3 of them is so damn impressive and satisfying. So yeah, that's why I feel number 10 is a good spot for Grimm. And coming in at number 11, it's going to be Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth, for me, I feel a lot of people either love or hate him. I don't know anybody that's really in the middle with him. But for me, I do love him in Twisted Metal Black. I think his design of transforming into that giant mech, the first time seeing that was just amazing. My jaw was on the floor. Even though I still stand by my stance that he went over the top with his mech transformation in 2012, I think this time around it was justified, and even though it's still whimsical, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it makes sense once you learn that the entire game takes place in Sweet Tooth's mind. So of course he's going to have the most tricked out vehicle. That being said, though, the special weapon still is not over the top. It's really good, don't get me wrong, but essentially it's just 18 regular fire missiles that shoot out in succession. But you have to have a really decent aim or a good spot in order to hit every single missile on somebody to do the utmost amount of damage. But that's pretty much it. There's no secret sauce to his special weapon. There's no extra features to it. It's just that. But still, very cool. Love the transformation aspect. His armor is also one of the best in the game for the regular vehicles, so you don't have to worry too much about looking for health every 5 minutes. And not only that, but his handling and speed also isn't that bad either. He's definitely more on the sluggish side for sure, but he's nowhere near Manslaughter or anybody like that, thank God. So yeah, that's why I think Sweet Tooth definitely deserves to be higher on this list, because he's one of my favorite go-tos in the game. But his slightly sluggish handling and kind of lower speed does bring him down a little bit, and that's why he's not like number 1 for me. And coming in number 12, we have Spectre. Now, Spectre in Twisted Metal Black, I gotta say, gameplay-wise, is probably my favorite Spectre in the entire series. I still stand by TM3 Spectre as my favorite designed vehicle, but yeah, I absolutely love Spectre in this game. I just wish her car looked a little cooler. But her speed, her handling, The special weapon, the Ghost Missile that we've all come to know and love, is absolutely devastating. I think, honestly, it's a little overpowered in a lot of ways for how much damage it actually does. And you can just spam the shit out of that, and it goes across almost the entire map. The only thing that they did try to balance her special out a little bit is that you technically can outrun the Ghost Missile most times. If you have a faster vehicle, as long as you step on the gas and you don't have to worry about taking a tight turn, you actually can outrun it to the point where it'll explode before it hits you. So that's one way, I guess, to counteract her special weapon, but for the most part, the AI never does that, and you'll get the hit every time. So yeah, she's just an absolute beast. She's a lot of fun to play as. Again, tight handling, super good speed, just insane special. Obviously, only downside is her armor is not that great, but even that isn't terrible. I mean, there's definitely been weaker Spectres in the series, and she is by far not the weakest in terms of her armor. So yeah, I feel like this placement makes a lot of sense. And all right, guys, coming down to the wire, the top 3 characters. Coming in at number 13, we have Crazy 8. I know this one might be controversial. I feel just like Sweet Tooth in this game, Crazy 8 is a love it or hate it character. I can't tell you how many people have told me that Crazy 8 is terrible and they just don't like playing as him. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I understand. He has a massive skill gap. I will say that. But once you get over that hump of the skill gap, he is probably the most devastating character in the game, next to the next 2 on this list. Because Crazy 8 may not have the best armor. I'd say he probably is neck and neck with Spectre in this game for armor, so probably on the weaker side. But he has an amazing sense of speed, great handling, super tight handling. But his special weapon, man, it is by far my favorite version of the taser special weapon from any game in the series. I love the design of it. I love the fact that you have the 4 rods on all sides of the vehicle. And I love that there's technically 3 ways to use it. The first way, which is probably the most common way that most people use and they absolutely hate him because of this, is you hit your special weapon button, it connects to a vehicle, and it does a little bit of electricity damage. It honestly is probably insanely weak and does little to nothing. So I can understand, first time experience, people hate him. He sucks. So yeah, understandable if you threw him in the trash. But now, I might open your eyes a little bit. The second way to use his special, once you hit the special button and you get that attached to a vehicle, now rapid fire that special weapon and it'll do a massive jump in damage, and it'll actually suck like crazy, and it'll pretty much be a 80% increase in damage from the just hitting the special weapon and letting it do its thing. And it all depends, of course, on how fast you rapid fire the special button. But once you learn how to do that adequately, it is such a massive difference that he'll become a lot more fun to play as. And for the third version of his special, that's right, there's a third version. Not only can you rapid fire the special weapon button to do extra damage, but before you do that, if you know the direction of the vehicle next to you, so if someone's like, let's say right in front of you or to the side of you or behind you, if you tap the directional pad 3 times, in the direction of the vehicle. So for instance, if they're to the right of you, if you tap the directional pad 3 times, you'll see a little purple electricity wave appear on the side of your vehicle on the side that you pointed the directional pad to. For instance, if I had somebody in front of me, I tap it 3 times up, and again, you'll see that little electricity field in the front of your vehicle now. And then what you got to do is then start rapid firing your special weapon button right after you see that little purple electricity line. If you get an attachment to somebody, so if you are close enough and you get it connected, now the waves of lightning will be way thicker and they'll be purple. And it does, I'm not shitting you, about 60% more damage than the regular special when you're rapid firing it. So needless to say, if you can get a full special on Grim, it's a one-hit kill. If you can get a full special on Spectre, I believe that's also a one-hit kill. And it all depends on how fast you can rapid fire as well, of course. But that just goes to show that Crazy 8 is by far one of the most broken characters in the game because of his special weapon alone. And I absolutely love playing as him. But the reason he's not number 1 is because of his armor output and the fact there's a big skill gap. Because I'm fair, even though he's my favorite pick in the game, I totally understand why people hate him or just don't understand how to use him properly. So yeah, Crazy 8, number 13. And coming in at number 14, we have Roadkill, aka John Doe. Even though John Doe has become a meme in our community, in the TMF, and I absolutely love his stupid, silly face, I am not a huge fan of his actual character, and I wish they just would have brought Marcus Kane back, even if it probably wouldn't have made any sense because of how, we figure out that's all takes place in Sweet Tooth's head, and he's actually Marcus Kane, and all the lore and all that stuff, right? That being said, John Doe is still a silly little boy, and I'm willing to let that go. My other issue, I guess, is the design of his vehicle. I think it's probably the most boring car in the game. I just think it's really just, too generic, right? A junkyard car, basically. It could have been way cooler. But needless to say, we put those two things aside. John Doe, in my opinion, is probably the most broken car character, you name it, in the game, next to the number one spot, which I think you guys can all tell what that's going to be. And yeah, he's insanely busted. And the best part about playing as Roadkill is so that you don't have to go against Roadkill in the tournament. So he's got, by far, one of the best feeling vehicles in the game, next to Crazy 8, in my opinion. Super fast, insanely tight handling, all around checks every box that I love for a good feeling vehicle in Twist Metal Black. And then, of course, we come to his special weapon. Now, he technically has 3 versions of his special weapon, I should say, but it's not really that complicated. Essentially, he has this list of fire missiles that pop up on the front of his vehicle. If you just tap the special weapon button, it'll be 1 fire missile. It'll do dud damage. It's very weak. It's a waste of time. Now, if you hold down the special weapon button, you'll see it start charging up, and you can get up to, I want to say, 6 of them at once, and you can let go, and it'll do a really, really good amount of damage. Now, if you are super skilled at your timing, unlike me, I fail at this almost every time, you can keep holding the special weapon button down until it gets to a certain amount of beeps, and if you let go in time, the missiles will all turn red, and they will do a devastating amount of damage. Now, there is a risk and reward with this. If you hold on to your special weapon too long, it actually will deactivate and you lose that special. There is a way you can hold certain buttons down, and I don't remember off the top of my head what they are, but you are able to hold certain buttons down to essentially stop that from happening and you don't lose the special weapon. But again, I don't remember how to do that off the top of my head, but there is a way to do it. But yeah, John Doe is just a menace to be reckoned with. It's a super easy special to learn and to time perfectly, and once you do, it's just crazy how much damage it does. And again, he has really good attributes with his speed handling. Oh, and his armor is also really good. I forgot to mention that's a big asset to him as well. He's not weak by any means. Pretty much medium to heavy armor, which is just insane. So he is the jack of all trades character, is the way I like to look at him. There is no downsides to John Doe. He is just the best car to choose out of the regular vehicles. So Roadkill, number 14. And who is the last of the pack here? Who is the best of the best? Number 15 on my list. You probably guessed it from the beginning, and this is so true. And this is probably the main reason I wanted to remake this list. I think the number 1 spot goes to Minion. It just makes the most sense. As much as I want to give it to John Doe because of how broken he is as a generic regular vehicle, yes, Minion isn't unlockable. He is a boss character, and he's obviously insanely busted. His special weapon is pretty much a one-hit kill for most cars in the game if you can get the entire flamethrower on people. If you're not near them, it shoots fireballs that have infinite range, basically, and do a ton of damage. His armor is just off the charts strong, and his handling and speed is also not that bad. So, yeah, just Minion is absolutely busted. He deserves to be the number 1 spot. I was just a little bit cranky, and I don't know, I just was stuck in my ways back a year ago when I made my first tier list, and I felt Minion deserved to be A tier instead of S tier, and, that was stupid of me. So, yeah, I wanted to remake this list, and I think this is my official definitive list of Twist Metal Black. I don't see myself ever changing my positions on where these cars are, at least not for a very, very long time. But I did feel that this list deserved a reassessment from me and to come back to it and give it the rightful places that these characters deserve. So, with all that being said, you guys know the gist by now. My list does not matter. My opinion does not matter. I'm just a regular dude on the internet talking about my thoughts and opinions. If you disagree with my list, that is totally okay. Let me know your list in the comment section below of your worst to best characters in the series. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you would like to see more ranking videos like this in the future, make sure to leave a like, show your support as always, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We'll always see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.